Daniel, chapters 4 through 6. Nebuchadnezzar, the sovereign to all peoples, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be increased to you. I thought it good to declare the signs and wonders which the Most High Allah has worked for me. How great are his signs, and how mighty his wonders! His reign is an everlasting reign, and his rulership is from generation to generation. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in my house and prospering in my palace. I saw a dream, and it frightened me, and the thoughts on my bed and the visions of my head alarmed me. So I issued a decree to bring in all the wise ones of Babel before me, to make known to me the interpretation of the dream. So the magicians, the astrologers, the Chazdim, and the diviners came in, and I related the dream to them, but its interpretation they did not make known to me. And at last, Dani'el, whose name is Belshazzar, according to the name of my Allah, came before me. In him is the spirit of the set-apart Elohim. So I related the dream to him, saying, Belshazzar, chief of the magicians, because I know that the spirit of the set-apart Elohim is in you, and no secret is too difficult for you, explain to me the visions of my dream that I have seen, and its interpretation. Now, the visions of my head on my bed were these. I looked, and saw a tree in the midst of the earth, and its height great. The tree became great and strong, and its height reached to the heavens, and it was visible to the ends of all the earth. Its leaves were lovely, and its fruit plenty, and in it was food for all. The beasts of the field found shade under it, and the birds of the heaven dwelt in its branches, and all flesh was fed from it. In the visions of my head on my bed I looked and saw a watcher, even a set-apart one, coming down from the heavens. He cried aloud and said this, Hew down the tree and cut off its branches, strip off its leaves and scatter its fruit. Let the beasts flee from under it and the birds from its branches. But leave the stump of its roots in the earth, even with a band of iron and bronze, in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of the heavens, and let his portion be with the beasts on the grass of the earth. Let his heart be changed from a man's, and let him be given the heart of a beast, and 7 times over pass over him. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the command by the word of the set-apart ones, so that the living know that the Most High is ruler in the reign of men, and gives it to whomever he wishes, and sets it over the lowest of men. This is the dream have I seen, I, sovereign Nebuchadnezzar, and you, Belshazzar, reveal its interpretation, since all the wise ones of my reign are unable to make known to me the interpretation. But you are able, for the spirit of the set-apart Elohim is in you. Then Daniel, whose name was Belshazzar, was stunned for a short time, and his thoughts alarmed him. Then the sovereign responded and said, Belshazzar, do not let the dream or its interpretation alarm you. Belshazzar answered and said, My master, the dream is to those who hate you, and its interpretation to your enemies. The tree you saw, which became great and strong, whose height reached to the heavens and was visible to all the earth, whose leaves were lovely and its fruit plenty, and in it was food for all, under which the beasts of the field dwelt, and on whose branches the birds of the heavens sat. It is you, O sovereign, for you have become great and strong, and your greatness has grown, and has reached to the heavens, and your rulership to the end of the earth. And as the sovereign saw a watcher, even a set-apart one, coming down from the heavens, and he said, Hew down the tree and destroy it, but leave the stump of its roots in the earth, even with a band of iron and bronze, and the tender grass of the field. And let it be wet with the dew of the heavens, and let his portion be with the beasts of the field, till 7 times pass over him. This is the interpretation, O Sovereign, and this is the decree of the Most High, which has come upon my master the Sovereign, that you are going to be driven away from men, and your dwelling be with the beasts of the field, and you be given grass to eat like oxen, and you be wetted with the dew of the heavens. And 7 times pass over you, till you know that the Most High is ruler in the reign of men, and that he gives it to whomever he pleases. And they that gave the command to leave the stump of its roots of the tree, your reign remains yours from the time you come to know that the heavens are ruling. Therefore, O Sovereign, let my counsel be acceptable to you. Break off your sins by righteousness and your crookednesses by showing favor to the poor, that your prosperity might be extended. All this came upon sovereign Nebuchadnezzar. At the end of 12 months, he was walking about the palace of the reign of Babel. The sovereign spoke and said, "Is not this a great Babel, which I myself have built for the house of the reign by the might of my power and for the esteem of my splendor?" The word was still in the sovereign's mouth when a voice came from the heavens. "Sovereign Nebuchadnezzar, to you it is spoken, the reign has been taken away from you, and you are driven away from men, and your dwelling is to be with the beasts of the field. You are given grass to eat like oxen, and 7 seasons shall pass over you, until you know that the Most High is ruler in the reign of men, and he gives it to whomever he wishes." In that hour the word was executed on Nebuchadnezzar, and he was driven from his men, and he ate grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of the heavens, till his hair had grown like eagle's feathers, and his nails like birds' claws. And at the end of the days I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted my eyes to the heavens, and my understanding returned to me, and I blessed the Most High, and praised and made him great who lives forever, whose rule is an everlasting rule, and his reign is from generation to generation. And all the inhabitants of the earth are of no account. He does as he wishes with the host of the heavens and among the inhabitants of the earth, and there's none to strike against his hand, or say to him, "What have you done?" At the same time my understanding returned to me, and for the preciousness of my reign, my esteem and splendor were returning to me, and my counselors and nobles sought me out, and I was reestablished to my reign, and excellent greatness was added to me. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, am praising and exalting and esteeming the sovereign of the heavens, for all his works are truth, and his ways are right, and those who walk in pride he is able to humble. Chapter 5. Belshazzar the sovereign made a great feast for 1,000 of his great men, and drank wine in the presence of the 1,000. While tasting the wine, Belshazzar gave orders to bring the gold and silver vessels which his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the Hekal, which had been in Jerusalem, that the sovereign and his great men, his wives and his concubines, could drink from them. Then they brought the gold vessels that had been taken from the Hekal of the house of Allah, which had been in Jerusalem, and the sovereign and his great men, his wives, his concubines, and drank out of them. They drank wine and praised the Elohim of gold, and of silver, of bronze, of iron, of wood, and of stone. At that moment, the fingers of a man's hand appeared and wrote opposite the lampstand on the plaster of the wall of the sovereign's palace. And the sovereign saw the part of the hand that wrote. Then the sovereign's color changed, and his thoughts alarmed him, so that the joints of his hips were loosened and his knees knocked against each other. The sovereign called loudly to bring in the astrologers, the Kasdim, the diviners. The sovereign spoke and said to the wise ones of Babel, "Whoever reads this writing and shows me its interpretation is robed in purple and has a chain of gold around his neck and shall be the third ruler in the reign." So all the sovereign's wise ones came, but they were unable to read the writing or to make known its interpretation to the sovereign. Then Sovereign Belshazzar was greatly alarmed, and his color changed, and his great men were puzzled. The sovereigness, because of the words of the sovereign and his great men, came to the banquet hall. And the sovereigness spoke and said, "O sovereign, live forever. Do not let your thoughts alarm you, nor let your color change. There is a man in your reign in whom the spirit of the set-apart Elohim, and in the days of your father, light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the Elohim, were found in him. And sovereign Nebuchadnezzar, your father the sovereign, made him chief of the magicians, astrologers, Kasdim, and diviners, because an excellent spirit, knowledge and understanding, interpreting dreams, and explaining riddles, and solving difficult problems were found in this Daniel, whom the sovereign named Belshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and let him show us the interpretation." So Daniel was brought in before the sovereign. The sovereign spoke and said to Daniel, "Are you the Daniel who is one of the sons of the exile from Yehuda, whom my father the sovereign brought from Yehuda? I've heard of you, that the spirit of Elohim is in you, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom are found in you. And the wise ones, the astrologers, have been brought in before me, that they should read this writing and make known to me its interpretation." But they were unable to show the interpretation of the word. And I myself have heard of you, that you're able to give interpretations and to solve difficult problems. Now, if you're able to read the writing and make known its interpretation to me, you are to be robed in purple and have a chain of gold around your neck and shall be the third ruler in the reign. Then Daniel answered and said before the sovereign, "Let your gifts be for yourself and your rewards for another. Yet I shall read the writing to the sovereign and make known the interpretation to him. O sovereign, the Most High Allah gave Nebuchadnezzar, your father, a reign of greatness and preciousness and esteem. And because of the greatness which he gave him, all peoples, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whomever he wished he killed, and whomever he wished he kept alive, and whomever he wished he raised up, and whomever he wished he made low. But when his heart was lifted up and his spirit was so strong as to act proudly, he was put down from his throne of reign, and they took his preciousness from him. Then he was driven from the sons of men, and his heart was made like the beasts, and his dwelling was with wild donkeys. He was given grass to eat like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of the heavens, till he knew that the Most High Allah is ruler in the reign of men, and he sets it up over whomever he wishes. And you, his son, Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, although you knew all this. And you have lifted yourself up against the Master of the heavens. And they brought before you the vessels of his house. And you and your great men, your wives and your concubines, have been drinking wine from them. And you've praised the Elohim of silver and of gold and of bronze and of iron and of wood and of stone, which neither see nor hear nor know. But the Allah who holds your breath in his hand and owns all your ways, you've not made great. Then the part of the hand was sent from him, and this writing was inscribed. And this is the writing that was inscribed. Nene, mene, tekel aparsin. This is the interpretation of each word. Mene. Allah has numbered your rain and put an end to it. Tekel. You've been weighed on the scales and found lacking. Peres. Your reign has been divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. Then Belshazzar gave orders, and they robed Daniel in purple and put a chain of gold around his neck, and they proclaimed concerning him that he's the third ruler in the reign. And that night Belshazzar, sovereign of the Kasdim, was killed. And Dariavesh the Mede took over the reign, being about 62 years old. Chapter 6. It pleased Dariavesh to appoint over the reign 120 viceroys to be over all the reign, and over them 3 governors, of whom Daniel was one, so that these viceroys should give account to them, and the sovereign suffer no loss. Then this Daniel distinguished himself above the governors and viceroys because an excellent spirit was in him. And the sovereign planned to appoint him over all the reign. Then the governors and viceroys sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the reign, but they were unable to find occasion or corruption, because he was steadfast, and no negligence or corruption was found in him. Then these men said, "We shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, unless we find it against him concerning the law of his Allah." Then these governors and viceroys tumultuously gathered before the sovereign and said this to him, "Sovereign Dariavesh, live forever." All the sovereigns of the reign, nobles and viceroys, the counselors and advisors, have consulted together to establish a royal decree and make a strong interdict that whoever petitions any Allah or man for 30 days, except you, O sovereign, is thrown into the den of lions. Now, O sovereign, establish the interdict and sign the writing, so that it is not to be changed, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which does not pass away. So sovereign Dariavesh signed the written interdict. And Daniel, when he knew the writing was signed, he went home, and in his upper room, with his windows open toward Jerusalem, knelt down on his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his Allah, just as he had done before. And then these men tumultuously gathered and found Daniel praying and entreating before his Allah. Then they approached the sovereign and spoke concerning the sovereign's interdict. "Have you not signed an interdict that every man who petitions any Allah or man within 30 days, except you, O sovereign, is thrown into a den of lions?" The sovereign answered and said, "The word is certain according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which does not pass away." Then they answered and said before the sovereign, "Daniel, who is one of the sons of the exile from Yehuda, pays no heed to you, O sovereign, nor for the interdict that you've signed, but makes his petition 3 times a day." Then the sovereign, when he heard these words, was greatly displeased with himself, and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him, and he labored till the going down of the sun to deliver him. Then these men tumultuously gathered before the sovereign and said to the sovereign, "Know, O sovereign, that it is the law of the Medes and the Persians that any interdict or decree which the sovereign establishes is not to be changed. Then the sovereign gave orders, and they brought Daniel and threw him into the den of the lions. But the sovereign spoke and said to Daniel, Your Allah, whom you serve continually, he himself delivers you. And a stone was brought and laid on the mouth of the den, and the sovereign sealed it with his own signet and with the signets of his great men, that the situation concerning Daniel might not be changed. And the sovereign went to his palace and spent the night fasting, and no entertainment was brought before him, and his sleep fled from him. Then the sovereign rose up very early in the morning and hurried to the den of lions. When he came to the den, he called with a grieved voice to Daniel. The sovereign spoke and said to Daniel, Daniel, servant of the living Allah, has your Allah, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions? Then Daniel said to the sovereign, O sovereign, live forever. My Allah has sent his messenger and has shut the lions' mouths. They did not harm me, because I was found innocent before him, and also before you, O sovereign, I've done no harm. Then the sovereign was very glad and gave orders that Daniel be taken up out of the den, and Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no harm was found on him, because he trusted his Allah. And the sovereign gave more orders, and they brought those men who had accused Daniel, and they threw them, their children, and their wives into the den of the lions. And the lions overpowered them and broke all their bones in pieces before they even reached the floor of the den. Then sovereign Dariavesh wrote to all peoples, nations, and languages that dwell on all the earth, Peace be increased to you. From before me is made a decree that throughout every rule of my reign, men are to tremble and fear before the Allah of Daniel, for he is the living Allah and steadfast forever, and his reign is one which is not destroyed, and his rule is unto the end. He delivers and rescues, and he works signs and wonders in the heavens and on the earth, for he has delivered Daniel from the power of the lions. And this Daniel prospered in the reign of Dariavesh and in the reign of Koresh the Persian.